wasn't he the first designer to do a fashion show live on the internet?
Yes. Oh. Yeah. Exactly. Perfect.
It's a useful thing to look back with any planetary ingress. When any planet, particularly the outer planets, the slower planets, moves into a new sign, it's really interesting to look back on some of the themes and when it was last in that sign, and also to look onto look at the charts of famous individuals that have got that planet in that sign. Yeah. So in terms of Uranus in Taurus, Uranus was in Taurus last in 1936 to 1943, because it has an 84-year cycle, so 84 years ago, which was during World War II, and we've already talked quite in depth about the idea of nature and the land and that association with Taurus.
Yes.
And Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's also very sympathetic with the Moon, which are both feminine planets. And what we had during World War II was quite revolutionary, because all the men were off fighting at war. We had what was known as the land girls. So the land girls did the jobs of farmers. They took to the land, they planted the crops, and they sowed the crops, and they harvested the crops. And that was a very revolutionary thing, because back then they were doing jobs that were traditionally associated with men. They did them because no one else was there to do, because most of the men were off fighting. Yeah. And afterwards, it had a lot of influence on the ladies of the day, because they'd experienced work, they'd experienced some freedom, they'd experienced some independence, which is very much a Uranian thing.
It's the predecessor to a second wave of female liberation culture, because you already had the suffragettes in the early 20th century, and then really the Second World War was the catalyst to another wave of emancipation.
If we fast forward now, when Uranus is about to go back into Taurus, one of the massive huge things that is being talked about, which is hopefully going to see some redress when Uranus is Taurus, is equality of pay. There's still an issue where women are being paid less for the same jobs as men, doing the same job as a man does. I think one big company, ITN, Independent Television News, I think it was something like 18% discrepancy in pay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like that kind of figure. The BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, also published figures which showed a discrepancy between the salaries of men and women doing the same job. That knowledge is all in the public. All in the public domain. Interesting.
And then the other thing was we were looking for somebody who. A historical figure who has Uranus in Taurus very emphasised in their chart, and by emphasised we mean it should really be on an angle, like rising or on the midheaven. And we chose somebody with Uranus right on the midheaven, because the midheaven in astrology, right in the middle of the sky, represents their public image and something to do with their career. So Uranus in Taurus, we talked about some of the Uranus themes of revolution, newness, innovation, change, unpredictability, and we talked about Taurus, which is very much to do with the body and female stuff, because it's the Venus and the Moon are very comfortable in that sign, so it can be to do with beauty and or the land or the body. So the person we picked was Giorgio Armani.
Armani.
So, can you say a bit about him?
Yeah.
Giorgio Armani, he's got Uranus and Taurus on the midheaven. He was born with that, and he's a fashion designer. And the idea of the beauty. Fashion designers for women very much set the agenda on what is beautiful for a woman. And he was the first designer to ban super skinny models with a BMI less than 18 from the catwalk.
On account of, I think, one of the models who modelled one of his shows actually starved herself to death. She had anorexia and died. So he took the Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is a very drastic planet. It doesn't do anything by halves. It doesn't suddenly. So he just said, no more models with a low BMI in my show. So he actually set a limit to the BMI. And the other he was quite innovative. But the other, Taurus is a sign, because it's Venus and the moon, it's luxury, it's physical luxury. So when you have Uranus in Taurus on somebody's midheaven, obviously there's many other things in this chart which describe the kind of career he would have had and the kind of life he would have had and so on. But in terms of that, it's innovation in luxury and stuff to do with the body and femininity. There was something else?
Well, also just on body and the female body and that femininity. Taurus, as an earth sign, is associated more with the rounder, the fuller figure, the more natural figure than the idea of.
It's more the old sort of old archaeological finds with this sort of round.
The
skinny sort of boxer chair.
Absolutely. And wasn't he the first designer to do a fashion show live on the internet?
Yes. Exactly. Perfect. So he was the technology using fashion designer. He was the first one to broadcast a haute couture high end fashion show on the internet.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's so cool.